Hello dear students, how are you all? God bless you. In our last video, we started with chapter number 4, metals and non-metals, in which we discussed about the physical and chemical properties of metals. Now we will continue with the uses of metals. Metals are used in our day-to-day life. For example, copper being ductile and an excellent conductor of electricity, it is used in making electrical wires. It is a good conductor of heat, so it is also used for making utensils. Iron is used to make pin, nails, nuts, bolt, machines, etc. Aluminium is also used for making utensils. Gold and silver are used to make jewelries, coins, medals, etc. Platinum is also used for making jewelry, electric gadgets. Sodium is used as common salt, chemicals, etc. So metals have a lot of use in our day-to-day life. Now we will talk about noble metals. What are noble metals? The metals that do not react with water, acids, alkalis, and therefore occur in free state of nature are called noble metals. That means these metals are very less reactive. Therefore, they are used to make ornaments, because ornaments we wear in our daily life, and if they react with water or acids, then they will lose their shine. So we use noble metals like gold and silver for making ornaments. Also, gold and silver are deposited over another metal, okay, to may give a protective coating on other metals by the process of electroplating. Now, what is electroplating? In electroplating, one layer of metal is deposited on another metal by passing electricity to it. Okay, so you might have heard about gold plated, silver plated jewelry. So what are these? These are some other metals, might be iron or copper, and a gold and silver layer is deposited over them. Okay, platinum is used in electrical gadgets. International standards of weight and measures are made up of platinum iridium alloys. Noble metals are priced so high that a number of people invest their money to buy them, especially when economy is not doing well. You might have heard about people investing in gold, buying gold biscuits. Okay, so gold and silver, these noble metals are usually very costly because they are very less reactive, so they have a lot of use. These are some examples of noble metals: gold, silver, and platinum. Now our next topic is corrosion of metals. What is corrosion? Formation of layers of undesirable compounds on the surface of metals due to exposure to oxygen and moisture is called corrosion. If a metal is reactive, it is gradually, slowly attacked by air and water or moist air. A chemical reaction takes place between metal and moist air, as a result of which metal get tarnished. Tarnished means it loses its shine due to formation of undesirable compounds. So when a metal reacts with air, water, or moist air, a moist air will contain air as well as moisture, that means water in that. So air and water react with metals to form undesirable compounds on the surface of metal. This is called corrosion. So we will see corrosion in different metals like iron. The corrosion agent in iron is oxygen and moisture. And what do we see? Gets rusted. You might have seen iron objects when they are exposed to air or water for a long time, or when they are kept in rain for a long time, they will deposit a reddish brown layer on their surface. And what happens due to which? the loss of material and its properties takes place. So the reddish brown substance that is deposited on iron objects due to their exposure with moist air is called rust, and corrosion of iron is called as rusting. Next is copper. Copper is a quite unreactive metal. It corrodes very slowly. You might have seen when you wear a copper ring or a copper vessel at your home, when it is exposed to moist air, it deposits a greenish layer on its surface, and that is due to the formation of basic copper carbonate. Okay, so in iron, a reddish layer is deposited on the surface of iron object, and in copper, a greenish layer is deposited on copper vessels. Next, silver. When silver objects are exposed to air, they get tarnished. Tarnish means they lose their shine. Silver is quite unreactive, therefore it does not react with oxygen directly. What happens is it combines with hydrogen sulfide gas present in the air when silver objects are exposed to air. Okay, and that hydrogen sulfide reacts with the silver object and it forms silver sulfide, and that is a black coating on silver objects. You might have noticed when you wear silver objects for a long time, your mother might be wearing silver anklets. What happens? It turns blackish in appearance gradually over time. When you buy it, when it is new, the objects, the silver ornaments are very shiny, silver in appearance, but as the time passes, what happens? They grow blackish in color. Why? Because when they are exposed to air, air contains hydrogen sulfide gas, and that hydrogen sulfide gas reacts with the metal, that is silver, and forms silver sulfide, and that silver sulfide is a black coating on silver. Okay. Next is aluminium. You must have observed that aluminium vessels lose their shine after some time. This is due to the formation of a layer of aluminium oxide when the surface of aluminium is exposed to air. But the thin layer of aluminium oxide which is formed on the surface of aluminium is quite non-reactive. Therefore, it protects the aluminium object from further corrosion. So, in this case, we can say that corrosion is useful as it protects the metal from being damaged further. Next is copper. Copper is quite a non-reactive metal. It corrodes slowly when exposed to moist air. So, when a copper object is exposed to air, a greenish layer forms on its surface, that is of copper carbonate, as I told you earlier. Silver also we have discussed. Gold. Gold is a non-reactive metal, so it has no change. So, therefore, it is very costly and it is used to make ornaments. Similarly, platinum. Platinum also has no change of because of corrosion, so it is also used to make ornaments as well as electronic gadgets. Here you can see some examples of metal corrosion. The first picture is of rusting of iron. On an iron object, see, you can see the reddish brown layer is developing because of corrosion, and this is rust. Second picture is copper. A greenish bluish layer is deposited on copper surface, that is also because of corrosion. And here the third picture, a silver coin is there and it has turned blackish in color because of silver sulfide layer deposition because of corrosion. Now children, corrosion is a very harmful process. It slowly eats away whole metal, so it damages the metal. So we have to find some ways to prevent corrosion. So corrosion of metals can be prevented if contact between metal and air is cut off. As we have studied, corrosion is when metal reacts with air or water or moist air. So if we prevent the metal to come in contact with air or water or moist air, then corrosion can be prevented. Some of the methods are coating of metals with paint, oil, grease or varnish. These all prevent the metal from corrosion. If a layer of grease or oil is applied on the surface of metal, it does not come in contact with moist air. This prevents corrosion of metals, as presence of air and water is an essential condition for corrosion to take place. Similarly, if a coating of paint is applied on the metal surface, it prevents corrosion as the metal does not come in contact with oxygen and water. Now, coating of corrosive metals with non-corrosive metals also prevents corrosion. Some of the methods by which metals can be coated with non-corrosive metals are: the first is galvanizing. It is a process of giving a thin coating of zinc on iron on steel to protect them from corrosion. So, iron on steel is dipped in molten zinc so that a coating of zinc is applied on iron on steel, and zinc is very less corrosive, so this prevents the iron or steel from getting corroded. When a coating of tin, that is molten tin, is coated over other metal, that process is called tinning. Okay, and when molten zinc is coated on another metal, that is galvanizing. And tin and zinc both are non-corrosive metals, so when we apply their coat on a metal, it prevents the metal from being corroded. So just remember that in galvanizing and tinning, the metal that we want to prevent from corrosion is dipped in a non-corrosive molten metal, and when we take out from our metal that we want to prevent from corrosion from that molten metal, we get a layer of a thin coating of that molten metal on the metal that we want to prevent from corrosion. Next is electroplating. As I told you earlier, in this method, a metal is covered with another metal using electrolysis, that is by passing electricity. Further full procedure you will discuss in your higher classes. Okay. So just remember, children, that electroplating and galvanization are two different things. In both the processes, one metal is coated over other metal, but the process is different. In galvanization, the metal is dipped in molten metal, and in electroplating, the metal is coated over another metal by using electricity. Okay. Anodizing is also a similar process as electroplating. One more method is alloying. Alloying is corrosion of some metals can be prevented by alloying them with other metals. For example, iron rusts very easily, but when it is alloyed with nickel, chromium or carbon, it forms stainless steel which is resistant to corrosion. So children, alloying is nothing but alloy is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals. So two or more metals are mixed together to form a new metal, and this is called alloying. For example, iron is mixed with nickel, chromium and carbon, which forms stainless steel. So in stainless steel is nothing but a mixture of iron, nickel, chromium and carbon. Similarly, brass is a mixture of copper and zinc. Bronze is a mixture of copper and tin. So when two or more metals are mixed together to form a new metal, this process is called alloying. Now we will talk about non-metals. Non-metals are defined as those elements which accept electrons to form negatively charged ions called anions. As we have studied that metals lose electrons to form a positive charge cations, opposite to that non-metals will accept the electrons and electrons are negatively charged. So suppose if an element is having 7 electrons, so it has 7 negative charge on it, and if it accepts one more electron, so now it will be having 8 negative charge on it. So the negative charge on that metal is increased, so that negatively charged element will be called as negatively charged ion called anion. Okay, so non-metals accept electrons to form anions which are negatively charged. Now most of the elements in nature are non-metals and are used in our day-to-day life. Hydrogen is the most common non-metal in the universe, and oxygen is the most abundant non-metal in the earth crust, followed by silicon. When we talk about their occurrence, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur and the noble gases can be found in the form of free state as well as compounds in nature. Free means they are not present with any other element. They are found in a free form, in uncombined form, and rest are found as compounds in nature. Okay, so similar to that of metals, they occur as carbonates, sulfides, sulfates, halides, nitrates, oxides, phosphates. These all are nothing but the compounds with which the non-metals are found. We will first talk about hydrogen. Mainly hydrogen occurs in the combined state in compounds such as water, acids. The water formula is H2O, so it is found in combined state with oxygen. Acids like HCl, H2SO4, so it is also present in acids in combined form, and similarly in many organic substances. Elemental hydrogen exists in diatomic molecules. That means, children, when we write the formula of hydrogen, we write it as H2. So diatomic, di means two. Two atoms of hydrogens are found in nature linked to each other. We never write hydrogen as H because it is not present in atmosphere as single atomic molecule. Okay, it is always present as diatomic, that is two molecules of hydrogen are linked to each other. That is why its formula is written as H2. It is a colorless, odorless and neutral gas. It is a non-conductor of electricity and it has a low melting and low boiling point. So it is formed in combined form as well as in free state in the outer space. When you have talked about sun and stars, you might have studied that they contain hydrogen, helium, etc. So in the outer space, hydrogen is present in free form. Next is oxygen. Nearly half the mass of the earth's crust comprises oxygen in a combined state in compounds such as water. Again, water formula H2O. So oxygen is found in water in a combined form with hydrogen. Silicates, oxides, salt. Elemental form, that is free form of oxygen, exists in the air. In the atmosphere, we have studied oxygen is present in the free form, forming 21% of air by volume. So oxygen also exists in combined as well as free state. Elemental oxygen exists mainly as diatomic molecule. Oxygen, like hydrogen, is also written as O2. So it also exists in diatomic form. It is a colorless, odorless and neutral gas, non-conductor of electricity and low melting and boiling point. Next, carbon. Carbon also occurs both in combined as well as free state. In free form, it occurs as coal, diamond and graphite. Okay, the nutrients present in food, that is carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, when you will study their composition, you will see that they also contain carbon in combined form. So in combined form, carbon is present in nutrients of food such as carbohydrates, fats, protein, and in free form it occurs as coal, diamond, graphite. And carbon is also present in petroleum, natural gas and coal gas. It also occurs as carbonate in many minerals. And in the air, carbon is found as carbon dioxide. That means in the air, carbon is found in combined state with oxygen. Okay, we cannot find pure carbon. Carbon is linked with oxygen, forming carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now nitrogen is the main constituent of air. It is also found in combined state as nitrates and in compounds like ammonia. It is present in soil and in all living beings. So nitrogen is also present in free as well as in combined state. Okay. Now elemental nitrogen exists as diatomic molecule. Again the formula for nitrogen is N2. So it also exists as diatomic molecule. It exists as element in 79% of air by volume. Okay. Now we will talk about physical properties of non-metals. Physical properties of non-metals is completely different and opposite than that of metals. Malleability, that means non-metals are not malleable but they are brittle. Brittle means they break easily. When we try to beat them, they are not formed into thin sheets. Instead, they break when we beat them. So non-metals are very soft and brittle. They break easily. They are not malleable. They cannot be drawn into thin sheets. Next is ductile. Non-metals are not ductile. They cannot be drawn into thin wires. Non-metals are not sonorous. That means they cannot produce sound when we hit them. Non-metals have low density than that of metals. The melting and boiling point of non-metals are low. As I said, non-metals are generally soft. Non-metals are bad conductors of heat and electricity. So children, all the properties of non-metals are opposite than that of metals. And here also we have exceptional cases as we had in metals. In all the properties we have some exceptional cases. For example, non-metal, most of the non-metals exist either in solid or gaseous state, but bromine is an exception which exists in liquid state. Non-metals have low density, but exception is diamond, which has a high density. Non-metals are poor conductor of heat and electricity, but exceptional cases is graphite, which is a good conductor of electricity. Okay. Non-metals do not have luster, that means they do not shine, but iodine crystals and graphite are shiny. Okay, graphite you can find in the nib of your pencil. Your pencil lid is made up of graphite, so when you sharpen your pencil it shines. All the non-metals are soft, but diamond is extremely hard. So here also exceptions are there. Now, the chemical properties of non-metals. Chemical properties of non-metals is also completely different and opposite from that of metals. First, we will see the reaction of non-metals with oxygen. Non-metals form their oxides when react with oxygen. Okay, when sulfur is burnt in air, it forms sulfur dioxide. Solution of sulfur dioxide turns blue litmus red. Sulfur dioxide forms sulfuric acid when dissolved in water. Okay. So, these oxides when dissolved in water form acids which turn blue litmus red. Therefore, these oxides are acidic oxides. So, metals when react with oxygen they form basic oxides. However, when non-metals react with oxygen they form acidic oxides. Okay. Next, reaction of non-metal with water. Non-metals generally do not react with water. Rather, some non-metals which react with air are vigorously stored in water. So, non-metals do not react with water. Also, non-metals do not react with dilute acid. Exceptions are silicon and sulfur. Okay. Now we will talk about uses of non-metals. Like metals, non-metals also find various uses in everyday life and in industries. Like carbon, it has a form of diamond and graphite. Diamond is used in jewelries, etc. Graphite, as I told, is used in pencil leads, lubricants. Oxygen is a life support system. We all cannot live without oxygen. For welding and cutting metals also oxygen is used. Hydrogen is used for making products from oil. Chemistry of carbon and hydrogen is called organic chemistry and is a very big part of our life. All the petroleum, coal, plastic, proteins, medical drugs and carbohydrates are combination of organics, that is carbon and hydrogen. Sulfur is used as sulfuric acids in medicine, dyes, pesticides, cosmetics, shampoos, body lotions, etc. Ammonia is used in fertilizers. Chlorine is used in purifying water. Okay, so we have lot of use of non-metals in our day-to-day life. All these uses are given in your table. You just go through it and learn it, children. It can be asked. The last topic of our chapter is alloys. Alloys, as I already told you, it is used as a method of prevention of corrosion. What is alloy? Alloy is nothing but a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals. So when two or more metals are mixed together, we form alloy. Okay, and it is used to improve some physical or chemical properties of metals. Now, there are three things why alloys are used for. Alloys are used for, first, increasing hardness of metals. Some metals like iron and copper are not hard to be used as such as in construction materials. Alloying them with other metals and non-metals increases their hardness. Okay, for example, pure iron is very soft, therefore it cannot be used as such in construction of buildings and other purposes. However, if a small percentage of carbon is mixed with this pure iron, it forms the alloy called steel, which is very strong and tough. The second thing why alloy is made is to increase the resistance to corrosion. As we talked earlier, metals like iron are easily corroded, therefore they are alloyed with other metals. And the last thing they are used for is changing physical or chemical properties. Like tin and lead are alloyed to form solder, which has a low melting point than other metals. We have studied that metals have high melting and boiling point. To alter this property of metals, tin and lead are alloyed to form solder. Now this solder will have low melting point than that other metals, and that is why it is used to join copper wires in electrical circuits. Okay. So with this, children, we finish our chapter. I hope you all have understood it. Okay. We will meet again in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.